Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another beautiful video on this beautiful channel, this beautiful day. How you guys doing? I hope you're learning. I hope everything's going good. Today we're going to be talking about something called arrays. Now, this is a very important topic in C++, so I want you to listen and I want you to try and play around with these things that I'm showing you, and I want you guys to really get good at this because you're going to be using arrays a lot. And if you're going a course, a C++ course, or if you plan to, arrays are going to be a very big part of that course. And don't be afraid, alright? Don't be afraid, because if I go into Paint, I'm going to show you what an array is. So imagine your big box computer here. It's got a bunch of memory, and here is the computer's memory, right? The memory in the computer, you can't see it, but they're basically just small boxes with addresses, just like your houses. Imagine this a street, like a big street with a bunch of houses. They have their own address and their own people living in them, right? The thing here is these are studio apartments, so there's one type of thing living in each of these. All right, basically you can think of it that way. So there are a bunch of boxes. Now when we make a variable like an integer, and if I create an integer here, if I make it a little bigger, I'll say int I equals 20, right? The computer is going to take this and it's going to find an address somewhere randomly, which it chooses is the best in here. The address might be something like this, whatever. It's just a bunch of numbers. And in here it's going to put your 20. And your I is going to basically be a postcard or something, like something keeping your address, knowing what your address is to 20. Now, whenever you change I, the computer is going to go into this address and it's going to change whatever is there, right? So it's basically a variable. Your I is stored in this position. Now, but that's just one thing, right? An array is basically like a bunch of these ordered together, and they're all related. They all have a they're all kind of part of the same bigger box. Alright, so imagine your big box here with like 20 items. Alright, and imagine one integer or one kind of anything, just int my array has, how many should we say? How many can there be? Like 10 spaces. Now, when you specify it with this thing right here, with the two of these brackets, and you specify 10 in there, that's going to tell the computer, okay, I want to make a big box with 10 smaller boxes in it which contain integers. Alright, so this is much simpler than writing 10 of these int I1, I2, I3, making a bunch of integers. Instead, you just make one and you tell it to become a bigger box with 10 spaces in it. So this is a big box full of smaller boxes. Now when you go into this box, you can basically choose which box you want to get the data from. Now there are 10 different integers in here. There isn't 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So these will have different integer values in them, and they can all be accessed by myArray 0 to 9. So this is also very important. The positions go from 0, not from 1. They go from 0 to 9. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there are 10 objects, 10 places in this big box that can hold 10 different types of integers, and they all have their own little address here in this integer, in this array. So say that my array, if I write it like this, my array at position 0 equals 20. Then I'm going to put a 20 in the position 0 here. If I say my array at position 5 equals 323, or 32 is easier, 32, like that, whatever, then the computer is going to go to, okay, at position 5 I'm supposed to put 32. So it's basically a big box where you can index. These are called indexes or whatever, and they're basically like I said, addresses to these different boxes. So if I say at position 5, we're going to put a 32. So let me show you this practically. I hope I explained this well. It shouldn't be too hard. So say that we want to create 10 integers. So instead of writing int I1 equals 20, int I2 equals 30. Now, of course, you can do this, but there's no easy way to go through all of those and print all of those out. You have to write all of those by hand. I1, C out I1, C out I2, C out I3, and so on and so on. Instead, when you have an array, it's really easy to go through all of those values. So let's make an array. Int my array with 10 spaces, 10 positions, or 10 spaces is better. Just like that. So this is called an uninitialized array because we told it that we want 10 integers, but those 10 integers have just rubbish values. If you try to call one of those, you'll get an error because there's nothing in them. Alright, so let me show you a few ways to initialize an array. So 10 is a lot. Let's say if we had 3 positions here and we wanted all the 3 values in this array, all the 3 spaces to have the same value, 10, then we just write like this. You don't do anything else. You make 2 of these angle brackets and you write 10 in there. So every position in this bigger box, this array, is going to get the value 10, all of these integers. So if I show you how to print out an array effectively, you make a for loop like we talked about before. You start at 0 because remember, every box starts at 0 and it ends at 1 minus whatever you write here. So if you write 10, it's going to end at the position 9. If you try to access something outside of this box like 10, if you try to access something outside like 11, my array at position even 10 is outside. Because remember, what you write here is just how many you want. Here you're actually indexing it. You're actually trying to get something out. So the max value is going to be 9 here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 9. If I write 10 here, for example, if we want to print this out, std cout, if we want to print this out, this is going to break everything. Alright, but if I write 9, I'm going to get the last value in this array. If I write 0, I'm going to get the first one. So just remember that. You don't want to go out of bounds, like we say, right? So -1 is completely prohibited as well. You don't want to go minus. It always, 0 is the least. And if it's empty, 0 is going to crash as well. So you don't want to do that. So if you have 9, you're going to say, if you have 10, you're going to say 9. So that's good. That's one way of initializing it. You get a bunch of stuff. So now I'm going to print out all of these values, and I'm going to show you that there are 10 things in here. And usually I print out I as well, because I is basically the index, the position, and the value. So it goes from 0 up to less than 10. That's the size of it. So less than 10, that means it's only going to go to 9, and when it is 10, this isn't going to be true anymore, and nothing's going to happen. We're not going to go and access 10 here. So I put I in here. Now, what's going to happen? Well, I starts at 0, right? So the first thing that's going to be printed out is my array at position 0, because I start at 0. The next loop, we're going to do I++. So the next loop, I is going to be 1. So we're going to print out my array 1. Everything up to 9. And then 10, we're not going to print out because it doesn't exist. And I will never be 10. So if we just start with this, because this is a complicated subject. I hope most of you are getting what we're doing here. Let's just do this. You hold Alt and Shift together to do this. So you can kind of do all this stuff, just so you know. But there you go. So let's just run this, and let's see what happens. Let's see. So 0, 10, 0, 0, 0, 0. That's kind of weird. It should actually make everything 10 there. But I think it initializes everything and puts the first value at 10. But that's kind of weird. That is kind of weird. You know what? I'll check it out later and I'll get back to you with that. But whatever. If you wanna initialize other stuff, like one at a time. So the first position is gonna have 10, I want 20, maybe 40, 45, 32, something, something, something up to 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10, if I run this, will have a value for each of these. See? So 9 got 4, 0 got 10, and everything in between is correct. Now if I remove these, the other ones will be 0. Yeah, the other ones will be initialized to 0. But if I remove this completely, this will be an uninitialized array, and it will have really weird numbers. See? It's really weird. So you don't want to print or use anything that's uninitialized. Alright? So, but if you want to initialize everything to 0, this is the way, right? Because remember, we always initialize stuff. So this is an initialized array right there. Now I showed you the other way to initialize it with each value, just like I did. And then we will make another type, something that you should get used to. We haven't talked about this variable type yet, and it's called const. And we will talk about it later, but really just very easy thing to remember is const tells the computer, okay, this variable will never change. We will have one value, whatever it has at start, and then it won't have anything else after that. It won't ever change. And to initialize an array, you need a constant value, something that can't change. You can't make an integer array size and give it 10 and then put array size in here to initialize it, to tell it how many spaces we want. You can't use something that can change, because remember, array size can change in the future. The computer wants something that can't change in here. Expression must have a constant value. You see that? Now if I make const int array size here, it won't complain, because it knows that whenever we use array size, it will never change. It can't change, so you'll never have any problems initializing this array. So you say 10, and the thing that makes this really easy, or something really good to get used to, using arrays and these initializing sizes together, is that whenever you want to loop through them, you can just write array size here, because see, array size is 10 and we can use it here. So once we change the size to like 12 here, both of these will change, right? So you don't have to change it everywhere manually by hand. You have one variable that controls everything. Alright, so now if I run this, we'll have 12 instead, or 0 to 11. See that? So that's a good practice. What I did with 12 and stuff like that in here, that's not a good practice. You shouldn't get used to that. It's not really good. So don't do that. Now if I say my array at position 4 equals 23, we'll see that at position index 3, or position 4 here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 23. See how you can change them whenever you want? My array at position 5 equals 100, and then my array at position 9 equals my array at position 4 multiplied by my array at position 5. So what is going to happen here? I want to just show you that these values actually are integers. It's the same thing as writing maybe 10 integer values separately. It's just that this makes it a little easier. So you can get different integer values. So my array at 4, my array at 5, we're going to multiply these together and put it into my array at position 9. And that's basically going to give us 2300 at position 9. So I hope you see what's going on here. Now, this isn't the only thing with arrays. Now, arrays are really good because you can make different types of arrays. You can make arrays of any type you want, even your own types, even with classes and stuff that we're going to talk about later. So then you'll be able to make your own types, like person, car, airplane, anything. So we'll talk about that later. Don't worry about it. But for now, let me just show you that we can make a name array for storing names even. So std string my string array, whatever, you can call it whatever you want. We'll make it array size as well, we'll try to initialize it. We'll see what happens here if we just initialize it with none or something like that. Let's just see what happens here. And then we're going to make a new for loop, and we're gonna print out my string array. And oh yeah, you need to include string to use this operator on the string. So you need to include string when you're using it. Don't forget that, like I just did. Okay, let me see. So none, and the rest of them are empty. So this does not initialize all of those together. I'll get back to you on that, like I said. But yeah, let's just do this. Let's say my string array at position 2 equals Daniel. And these are strings, so you don't want to put integers in here. But for example, my string array at position 2 is a separate string in this box of 12 strings, and we're going to give it Daniel. So if I run this, you'll see that at position 2 we have Daniel. You see that? So that's a very good way. Now let me show you another thing. Const int array size strings equals, let's have 3 strings. All right, now I'm gonna create this with array size strings. All right, so I have 3 strings in here. We'll keep that actually. So array size strings, we have 3 strings. Let me put this whoops, let me put this next to this one just so we don't get confused, like that. And this is all going to happen with this because it's with that. I'm gonna put everything together just so you know. So this is for my array, and then this is gonna be for strings, and we're gonna print all of those out. We'll make a std cout, just a new line here just to make it clear, and then array size strings, array size strings, array size strings. And I'm gonna show you a way to get a bunch of stuff from the user. All right, so std cout, enter a name, like that, and we're gonna do std get line. We'll make a temporary string, std string. Or actually we don't need that. We'll say get line from the keyboard, cn, my string array at position I. So we're gonna input something from the keyboard into each of these. So enter a name, and then I'm also gonna print out the index, so how many we have. So enter a name. It's gonna ask the user for a name from the keyboard, and it's gonna be put into my string array, and then I'm gonna print out everything from the string array later on. So I'm gonna make another one, another for loop, and my string array, or my array, wait, what was it called? Array size strings. And I'm just gonna print out everything from that. So it's gonna ask us for a bunch of names, and we'll print it all out. So let's try this out. So first it printed out all our integers. Now it's asking me enter the first name, search Daniel and Marcus, something like that. So search Daniel and Marcus. See how it printed all those out? So that's a way to get a bunch of things into an array, and you'll store them there. They'll be stored like a big box with smaller boxes. So here you go, a few examples how to use those. I think I gave you all the tips. Don't go over the bounds. Try to get used to using these const int array sizes to keep track of how big your arrays are. Alright, you can have different ones for different arrays, that's fine. You can name them whatever you want, but try to give them logical names, and the arrays as well, what they're storing. Alright, because in the beginning you can clearly see what they're storing because of their type. This is what they're gonna store, and this is how many of it they're gonna store. But later on, like down here, you don't know if this was just one array. It's called, the name is like an array. You don't know what it's storing really. So my string array tells us that, okay, it's storing strings probably. So that's a good logical name. Array size strings. Maybe a better name would be array size my string array or something like that. Just really detailed so you know what's going on. Get used to that, please, and it will save you a lot of time. So play around with these arrays. Don't go over the bounds. Try to look at how to initialize them. I'll try to look at it as well. And best of luck. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support. And I'll see you guys and girls in the next one. All right? Bye-bye.